And through a period of time where we worked with both departments to hone that number into the absolute minimum required space, we worked on a number of proposed design solutions, starting with a standalone police station and renovations to town hall, and moving through a number of different options to what we have today, which was a combined town hall and police station facility. And when we looked at the renovations to town hall and a standalone police station, we were able to solve the space needs and requirements for both departments, even though in the case of the town hall, the use of the existing building meant we had to put on a rather large addition to solve the space needs. The cost for that option was way too expensive for the Board of Selectmen to consider. So we were told to go back to the options and come up with a better approach. The renovation to town hall would have kept the existing building pretty much like it is, but put an addition off the back of it, which is almost equal to the size of the existing town hall, so basically doubling the square footage of the building. The existing town hall does not have a sprinkler system. It has very low floor-to-floors, what you would consider basically from the basement of your house up to the first floor of your house, very low headroom, does not offer any real space for mechanical systems. All of the systems in the building would end up having to be replaced, mechanical, electrical, plumbing for the most part. There would have to be structural upgrades made to that building. And as I said, the sprinkler systems would have to be provided. So there was a significant amount of work to be done if we were to renovate it. That all contributed to the cost of that option. Police stations as a standalone building did work fine, and we were prepared to go with that plan. But given the costs, we did move on to a different solution. So this is the final result of that different solution, trying to merge the best cost for the process for these two buildings together with meeting the space needs, the minimum space needs of both departments. So it is a combined building, and that was done to achieve shared space between the two departments. It made no sense to build a training room for the police department and 300 feet, 200 feet away, build a selectmen's meeting room. Why couldn't those two things be shared together? So that's part of this project. Sharing mechanical systems, sharing an elevator, sharing bathrooms and other storage room spaces, it's all part of this project, which wouldn't be possible in a renovated, separated police station town hall. So this is a rendering of what the proposed building would look like on the site. This building does have a slightly larger floor-to-floor for the reasons I already stated. So the building takes advantage of the hillside that's there to tuck, similarly as it is now, police on the lower level and then the town hall on the upper level. There would be a ramp and a set of stairs to get up to that upper level. This is the site plan. Town hall, police station building on the left, High Road on the far left, Morgan Ave across the bottom, and the area here, I don't know if you can see the pointer there with the white dashed lines, is the existing footprint of Town Hall itself. So the new building would come closer to High Road, and it would come a little bit closer to Morgan Ave. Parking would still be maintained on this side of the site and along the back. The back side of the parking also has the access for the garage and sally port for the police department. So some of these spots will actually be taken up with police cruisers. The fire station would remain as is with parking in front for that, and then a parking lot with approximately 80 parking spaces on the open lot that we all parked in to come to this meeting. So with that, we were able to meet the required parking for all three facilities on this site. It also gives the town that parking lot essentially as a future option should and possibly long down the road changes to this fire station are needed. It gives you options and flexibility for doing that without having to provide temporary relocation of the fire department, which would be a very big expense. These are the floor plans of the building, proposed building. The lower level police station with a lobby space, public toilets, and the room I mentioned before, which would become a training room for the police department, a public meeting room, and the selectmen's meeting room. It means that for meetings like this, potentially you would have everybody come in that lower level. There'd be public bathrooms there and lobby space, in addition to the training room, as well as a media room and an emergency operations center, which is that little room in the corner there, which is needed for a police department and emergency facilities activities in a major emergency situation. The rest of the police station floor plan has booking space, garage space, patrol areas, locker rooms, and administrative offices. This is basically a 9,000 square foot floor plate, even though only about 7,600 square feet is used specifically for a police department. So pretty much the same space that's in the town hall on floor 1 and floor 2 is represented in that 7,600 square feet. Those two are exactly the same. So the amount of space the police currently have in their current facility is all we're asking for here, plus the training room. On the upper level, the entirety is the town hall spaces, with the exception of the studio, the TV studio in the upper left-hand corner. There would be a vestibule and a lobby for you to enter. Basically, the entire building is open to the public, so you can move around throughout all of these corridors. We've tried to place all of the public spaces closer to the public windows where you would go to talk to somebody, the clerk's office, that sort of thing, treasurer, assessing, all up around this lobby, so that's a lot of customer service happening there. But then there's additional offices in the back for planning, health agents, town administrators' offices, and necessary components like a vault, which the Secretary of State requires for record storage, and an elevator, which would get you between both levels. That's located here in that level and up here in the second level. There would also be multiple conference rooms, which is something that is lacking right now in town for holding a lot of town meetings, town office type meetings with small groups of people. The budget has been tweaked slightly since the last time we presented this at town meeting, as well as previous, and that tweak is at the temporary housing line item. It was decided that temporary housing of police department could be done within this room here with some upgrades, about $300,000 worth of upgrades, instead of building temporary trailers, which was the $750,000 in the previous budget, which was located back in where that parking lot was going to go. So that $450,000 plus came out of the budget, which has dropped the number down to 11.5. It's still an 18,600 square foot building. The construction costs still remain at approximately $450 per square foot. The design, management, and testing budget's the same, as well as all the other line items except for that temporary housing and a slight reduction of the contingency equivalent to the $450,000. So this, again, is the rendering of the building, and it was noted that we should take a look at what was standing here before on this site, and that's the old Grange Hall, just because it was a larger structure than what the current Grange Hall is, just so you have some perspective of what was here the early 1900s, and again, the building that's being proposed. So I'm going to turn it over to the financing side, I think, before we get to questions at the end.
Okay. I don't have a presentation. And I probably don't need a microphone either. So, okay, good morning. My name is Marshall Jesperson. I'm on the Finance Committee and I'm on the Capital Planning Committee. Before I get into a little history, I'd like to explain to you what the functions of both of those committees are. The Finance Committee is to look at how we spend money in the town and make sure that we make the best use of our resources, financial resources, to make sure that you get the most bang for the buck. Now, several years ago, in fact, when I got onto the Finance Committee, there was not a capital planning committee or a capital planning function. That started during my tenure, and Bob Connor was actually a key mover in getting that done so that we could plan for our capital needs. Now, our capital needs are things that cost a lot of money, over $10,000, and usually last more than 3 years. So we're looking at buildings, equipment, vehicles, all of that kind of thing. That comes through our committee. The reason we do that is to make sure that we can spend the money as wisely as we can. We have to spend the money. There are things, capital things that do wear out, and they do require either repair or replacement. That's where we come in. Now, I want to go through a little bit of the history of this project. The first proposal we had was a combined building of fire and police. That came several years ago. There were a lot of questions. It came to the town meeting. The presentation at the town meeting was really good. And we passed that with a 4-to-1 margin at the town meeting. Unfortunately, it failed by 35 votes when it came to voting. In the words of the late Bill Plant, he said, you know, you guys are really good with your plans, and you really suck with PR. And he was exactly right. So, we made a mistake at that point, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the Finance Committee, and we said, let's go back and redo it. Rather than sticking with a really good plan that when people understood it, they liked it. So we came back, and version 2 was a $6.5 million plan, which was approved. We subsequently learned that it wasn't good enough. It wasn't going to get done what we wanted to do. And so, with that in mind, we came back again. Now, the mistake we made was we didn't do all the homework that was necessary to flush out something that was $6.5 million. We came back and said, folks, we made a mistake. We admitted it. We told you we made a mistake. It isn't going to do. Our fault. And yet some people said, and they got up in town meeting and said, but we like the cost of that mistake. Even though it's not going to do what you need done, we like the cost of $6.5 million more than we like the cost of 12 or 11 and a half. Okay? We can't do that. You know, we made an error. To try and perpetuate that error and waste that money doesn't make any sense. So now we have before us this plan. It's a good plan. It combines a lot of things that we need to do, and I can tell you what has happened through the delays. A lot of people have gotten up and criticized the plan, criticized the financing, told you it costs too much, told you they can't afford it. The people who have benefited, okay? The people who own private property that we now have to rent, certainly not you, because this is going to cost more for less. And every delay we make will cost you more money. As the Finance Committee, I find this an untenable situation. Here we are trying to save you money. Our job, our mandate, is to do the best job we can for you within the constraints of the finance we have. And we have been trying to do that. And this is one where we have a good plan, the financing is good. We looked at what it would cost for the average household, average range is about $500,000. It comes to 75 cents a day. If you have a house that costs less than, or is valued less than that, you know, you might get away with 6 bits, 4 bits, whatever. You know, it isn't the cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts that it's going to cost you on a daily basis. Not moving this forward costs us money, and it pushes resources out of the town into the private sector, which is not what we want to do. So, from just the financial point of view, this is the best we're going to get at this point. A better solution would have been to get the one several years ago, but we can't go back and do that. So, I'm going to end with a quote. You know, our greatest weakness is giving up. The most certain way to succeed is to always try, just one more time. That came from Thomas Edison. We have to do this job. We have to get this work done. And it's up to us to get it done. We have a lot of people who have worked really, really hard, very talented, professional people who have come up with this. Now, you may not believe them, but they're telling you the truth. And the people who are the naysayers are costing you the money. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marshall. Thanks, Jeff. So now we'll open it up to questions, comments. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce the building committee. I'd like to introduce the selectmen. If there's anybody else here from FinCom, that would be good. So my name's Eric Swan. I'm Forcing Old Farm Way. I feel like a regular now. I've been doing this for how many years? And it's not exactly what I signed up for. I mean, my neighbor, Frank Remley, cutting grass, said, we need people. You're an architect. There's a project. You should do something. And I said, okay, I'll try to get on the planning board. The planning board was filling an extra seat, and they were looking for somebody with more legal experience, an architect, a lawyer. So that was filled, and then there were spots on the zoning board for an assistant. So through this, taking the spot, or being appointed to the spot on the zoning board, I was then introduced to a few more people, and then asked to be on the public safety site selection committee. So with that, and from that, I've been on numerous committees, and the chair of numerous committees to my surprise. But I really thought with my involvement as an architect that I would simply be on the board just to help with details and doors and window trims and roof lines to provide a building that had a civic character and something that we can be proud of. Expect to be in deep in terms of running the numerous programs, proposals, and budgets. You know, and I did a lot of that, or all that work myself with Martha on the various committees, and it's not until recently that we did hire context architects, professionals, architects, and with Jeff, there's structural, mechanical, and other professional engineers that are all licensed in the state to do their job. That we've been able to take some of these proposals on paper that are plans and merely budgets and simple floor plans at a very early stage and advance it. This is a process. If this was a private entity and you all had stake in the game, we could have built this 4 times over. The time is money, and Marshall is correct on that. So, Eric Swan, chair of the Municipal Building Committee. We have Martha Taylor, our town planner, who's on the Municipal Building Committee. Dana Jesperson. Chief Riley, where are you back there? Tracy Blaze, our town administrator. Who's JR? JR is back there. And Mr. Bob Connors is also. So, Selectman, I guess, please just stand up and just introduce yourself quickly so everybody knows who you are.
Jeff Beer.
Jeff Walker.
All right. Get started. Anybody like to have a comment? And just a couple rules of order. If you have a question, please raise your hand, or better yet, come to the side, stand by Susan, and we'd appreciate that you would stand up and present your question, mainly because you're in front of the camera. And if you have trouble speaking like me sometimes, I know that might be difficult, but we've heard comments of people about going to the digital age, and we don't need a big town hall, do everything online. This is the step of getting online. This is the step to record this so that you can all go back and get the facts again. This is the step for the people at home who couldn't make it, that they can turn it on and they can watch it. This is moving into the digital age, so please don't poo-poo it, and don't try not to be stubborn and just sit in your seat. Please come up and present to the audience. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I have a very soft voice, so I'll use the microphone. As Eric said, I'm Martha Taylor, town planner. I'm also a town resident. I've lived here for 19 years. And I just want to address a couple of questions that have come up in some of the letters that we've seen in the newspaper, and also comments that were made at town meeting. One comment is that we're moving too fast. And I would just like to say that I personally have been working on this for 14 years. We started in 2004 when we were working on the master plan and identified issues with the police station. We formed a Woodbridge School Committee to look at how we might use the Woodbridge School for town hall purposes and expand the police into both the upper levels of the existing town hall building. That project did not move forward, but as Eric and Marshall said, there have been many iterations of this project over the past 14 years. So I'd say each iteration has led us to look at more considerations and things that we realize are important, and we've reached this solution, which seems to be the most cost-effective, economical, both in terms of space and finances. The other thing I'd like to address, a question has come up about why should we spend a lot of money on a building that's open only 4 days a week? And it's true that the town hall is open for public business 35 hours a week, but there are many of us who spend a lot of time there in addition to that. We have a lot of nighttime meetings. Sometimes I have one, sometimes I have 3 in a week. Yesterday I was there for 7.5 hours, starting at 7 in the morning. I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. It's just, this is what we do to get the town's business done. Very often it's difficult. We have so many interruptions during the regular working hours that we take our own time to then work on Fridays and Saturdays to get done what needs to be done. So the building is open and occupied much more than 35 hours a week. The other thing I want to address in terms of that, a lot of people have said, well, why don't you just want to stay over here in Byfield? You know, this is a great space. And I'm just going to speak from a very personal point of view, working there nights and Saturdays. When I used to do that at Town Hall here with the police station downstairs, I never worried. I felt very secure. If I'm there on a Saturday with all the other offices closed, I'm often the only person who is in that building. The building is open. It's right next to the off-ramp from 95. And I can't just kind of run in and stay in my office and lock it. I need to go upstairs to run prints. I need to use the kitchen, the facilities. And I'm not a fearful person or a nervous person, but it does make me feel uncomfortable being there on Saturdays by myself. We have had, people hanging out in the parking lot there. We've had homeless or other distressed people in the bathroom. And so these are the kinds of things that we deal with over there. So I just wanted to make the point that we do work many more than 35 hours. It's not just a 35-hour and shut down place. So we're all doing the best that we can to meet the needs of the town in whatever facility we end up in. So now I'll turn it over to questions and answers. Thank you.
Questions? Comments? Compliments? They say that in elementary school, so they keep it all the things there. Somebody's got a comment. Yes, sir. Please. loudly, you can stand over there. If you'd like to use the mic, please do.
I use the mic. People don't like to be shouted at. Hi, my name is Joe McDonough. I'm the former chair of the media committee. I'm an attorney that for many years specialized in cable television and communications work, including building TV studios. So I guess I'm here because the forum is supposed to be about clarifying rumors and really getting to the bottom of what it takes to finance building the town hall. At a meeting this past summer with some of the selectmen and the town administrator and legal counsel, and I think the treasurer was there, I asked the question, how much of cable subscribers' money, and every month when you pay your bill down the bottom, it says there's a 4% charge on your cable bill that goes to the local town for community television. So I asked the question of the town administrator, how much money do you need for the town hall? And the answer I got was, they need all the money. So I did some calculations. I think there's right now sitting in an enterprise account about $750,000. We get about $33,000 a quarter from cable subscribers. It first goes to Comcast, and then every 4 months they send over a quarterly payment of about $33,000 to the town. And most of it, some of it goes to buy cameras like that, which aren't that expensive, but most of it goes into a separate account, which I was surprised that the response was that they needed all that money. So I guess part of my comment and my question is to the finance people and the capital planning people. Were you aware that you're using cable subscriber money? And are you aware that there'll be an additional 1% on cable subscriber bills after May? We're coming to the end of our contract with Comcast, and starting in May, we'll have a new 10-year contract. And if you take the money from the new contract, add it to the money that's in a separate account now, in an enterprise account, I come up with a figure of $2,628,000, which for the town hall represents about 62% of the cost of the town hall. I kind of separated the town hall out from the police station, saying the town hall will cost about $7 million. So I understand completely that if there's a way legally that you can take money that should have been going to Triton, because they don't have live programming there because they don't have money for the equipment, or should have been going to community television so that events like this could be done by a public access group and not the town. You know, if you believe in freedom of speech and think like most towns, you should have an independent way to do community television. There was a decision not to do that. I just don't think it was ever discussed. I don't think in doing the finances that there was ever an honest, open discussion about the money being put aside and the money in the future, which over the next 10 years will be $1.6 million, because they'll be requesting an increase in your cable bills of another 1% of the gross. Mr. Chairman, are we going to
And
talk about police?
there'll be,
We got to talk about it.
so this is financing that is going to go to the town hall and to the police station. So I will ask a question of the finance and capital planning people or the architect to say, have you taken into consideration this amount of money, and have you had a professional person design a TV studio that you have in your plan?
Okay. I'll do finance.
Okay,
Thank you very much. It was a good presentation and a good question. As far as the finance is concerned, we have given, from the Finance Committee, the most conservative estimate, knowing that we are going to be able to, one, save money or find other pieces of money that are in things like enterprise fund. If we can switch them around, again, it's a vote of the town to get that done. But you have an excellent point. We haven't publicized a specific amount that we want to lower that cost down, but if we do lower the cost down, we can lower the financing down and lower the cost to the townspeople and the taxpayers. So, well done. As far as the studio design, I'm going to turn it over to Eric. Thank you.
Can I point out a glitch in your comment?
Sure.
There is a statement in federal law that says that this money can only be used for video, not data, video, cable television purpose. And under the FCC rules and under the state rules, you're prevented from using it anything beyond community television.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a space in the town hall, in the plan, for a PEG studio, and it's a square box at the moment because we can't get to the next stage of planning to properly address it. In the budgets that are presented, there is no PEG money as a line item that is in there to reduce the budget. So we as building committee have not added that cost as a negative savings back to the plan. Discussions of where the PEG studio goes, whether it goes at Triton, whether the other towns want to spend their money to add to that facility, whether Newbury wants to fund that facility entirely unto themselves, it's another discussion for another committee.
Hi, I'm Alicia Greco. I'm on the Board of Selectmen, and first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out here today because this is a big turnout, and I'm so appreciative of it. Thank you. As far as the PEG money goes, legally, the town cannot use that money for anything other than public education or government programming. That's it. We cannot use it to offset the cost of the police station, offset some of the cost of the town hall. Legally, we cannot do that. We can use some of that PEG money to help offset some of the square footage cost of the studio piece of it. We can use that money to outfit the studio with equipment, but we cannot use that account for anything other than public education and government programming.
Thanks, Alicia. Next question? Comment? Yes, Jeff?
I have to honestly say, from sitting where I was, that in no way, shape, or fashion was any other intention of that money ever envisioned. So, Joe, I understand your concern and I understand your involvement, but it's always going to go to the studio.
Fred Thurlow?
Oh, gosh, I got introduced. All right. Fred Thurlow, Mark Avenue.
Fred?
Come on up, Fred.
Fred, come on up.
I'll go right here.
No, Fred. You can't have it both ways.
Say, everybody can hear me.
No, you gotta, Fred, the camera. We're going to a digital age. The people have spoken. Come on.
All right, where do you want me?
Thanks, Fred. Right up here will be fine.
She just swung the camera around here. She could have swung it over there.
You look good, Fred.
Really? All right, I got a question. Why are we here at this point?
Why are we here at this
Yeah.
point?
What brought us to this point?
It's a continuation of the facility needs aren't solved.
What was the facility that we needed?
We need a town hall.
We do?
We need a police station.
I haven't heard that we needed a town hall. I've heard the need of a police station. That's what brought us.
Fred, where have you been?
I've been right here in Newbury for 76
Sure.
years. Yeah.
Okay. So what, going back to the 6.5, what was the warrant for?
Was for a new police station and repairs to town hall.
Right, with an addition to meet the facility needs of town hall. It was for a town hall and a police station.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
That's what I thought. All right, the plan before us, well, first of all, a lot of people don't know this. I was a city planner in the city of Malden for 30-some odd years, I can't even count. And this plan is so overcrowded, it wouldn't even be approved in a city like Malden, which is 66,000 people in 5 square miles. Very densely built city, and we wouldn't approve a plan this dense. This is ridiculously overcrowded. That's just a point.
It's overcrowded.
That's not a question, that's a point.
Well, we'd like people not just to throw out words without having a response back to it.
Okay.
Okay, so there are 35 parking spaces over there right now. The new plan that's shown here has 34 parking spaces on it. And the previous plan that was shown with an addition out the back without moving town hall hit 29 spaces. So in fact, building a new building and locating it properly on site is a benefit.
But you don't need an addition out back. You've got the whole basement floor now, which is not police station.
You're a planner, you're not an architect, you're not a mechanical engineer, you're not a structural engineer. Right.
So
there's a lot to the building in terms of putting people back in and using the full basement in terms of having a 7'3" ceiling and adding the appropriate new mechanical back into it.
but it could
So
be
we
done.
At a loss of space and a greater addition, yes.
Could be done. That's
Maybe.
what I thought. Okay.
Hey, Fred, you use your phone now to make the DPW.
I'm sorry. There's too much echo here.
You're an old pro.
So I'd like to address the concern about the basement. The cost of putting money into that building, I believe, is a waste of our taxpayers' money. Because there's never going to be, it's going to take more money to revamp that building and add additions onto it for the space that the town currently needs. We forget, it wasn't just that building that we used, that shared police and fire. We had many trailers. We had people in trailers, we had storage in trailers. We had to throw documents away because it was all mold infested from the trailer in the library. We had temporary trailers that lasted 12 years. This is a needs-based approach. It's not that it would be nice to have this. This is what we need, and to just pump money into that building and hope it's going to fit us I am not a proponent of that, and I think it's a huge waste of taxpayer money.
But that building was built when they built buildings to stay. Buildings today have a life expectancy of about 25 years. Think about it.
Fred, we're all the people for the Yellow School, for the Woodbridge School, that had those same comments. Were you standing up and saying those exact things for those buildings when those were trying to be reused?
No, I didn't comment on those buildings, no.
Well, a lot of people in town put the kibosh on trying to reuse an existing building for the benefit.
And looking at the plot plan here, if you really want to go forward with these two uses in the same building, why don't you put it in the back where you've got the parking? It's a much bigger lot, could handle that size building much better than in the front.
Well, to answer the question, if anybody read the Daily News, there was a letter to the editor that talked about pride and sense of community. There's no better place for the town hall than to be on High Road within sight of the village green, to be in sight with our name on the building, something that we're all proud about for every visitor and even ourselves as we drive by on our daily routines. To put it back and stick it down Morgan Ave, yeah, it could be done. But if someone's going to argue about a sense of pride for the police and for the town, then the image is best cited where it's cited.
Well,
we have thought about that.
I agree with you. Town hall does belong out front. The police station very easily and should go in the back.
So then,
And finally-
so then we start breaking the building apart and we
Yep.
start adding costs, because then the response is, well, you know, you're going to have to do temporary trailers. Well, let's not do temporary trailers. Let's do it in 2 projects. Let's build one project. Let's build the other project. And so now, as Marshall had said, it's a time delay, it's cost escalation, and so those people that don't want to pay more, this has been thought about. We're listening to you. We're trying to accommodate one construction schedule.
You're not listening to us, because if you had, you'd have already built the police station, and it would be built and probably occupied at this point in time. You're the ones who have delayed this 2.5 years. And finally, let's see. Let me get this. Oh. Now, if this passes at the election, which it probably won't, in my opinion, but if it passes, are the selectmen gonna come back to town meeting and seek a 2/3 vote again? Because they certainly aren't gonna get 2/3 at town meeting. The minority side has swelled. You're not gonna get 2/3 vote at town meeting.
Maybe
So
the
what are you
majority
gonna
side
do?
has swelled as well.
No, it hasn't.
There was a majority of people in that room for the special town meeting
Much
that passed
smaller
it.
majority than last time.
I think I was clear at the last town meeting that the need's not gonna go away. Nobody's gonna drop a town hall on us out of the sky. And nobody's gonna drop a fire department on us out of the sky either.
Police
We
department.
need, or, I'm sorry, police department. We need to build this ourselves. The law says we need to pass this vote two times. Once at town meeting, because we, the Board of Selectmen, do not spend the town's money. Town meeting spends the town's money by vote. You're the legislative body, or they are. So it needs to pass 2 ways, at the ballot, and it has to pass at town meeting. I don't agree with you, Fred, when it comes to the minority spoke. The majority at the last town meeting was for this project.
But not 2/3.
We did not get 2/3
Nowhere
vote.
near
I'll give you that.
2/3. No.
But we need to pass 2/3, so will we come back to town meeting? Yes.
Okay,
When?
that's what I
I'm not
wanna know.
sure, but we have to come back to town meeting because we cannot move the project forward without a yes vote at the ballot box and a yes vote at town meeting.
Okay, my final comment is,
I thought the last one was final.
no, that was it. My final comment is, it's a secret ballot, so everybody can vote their conscience without fearing from repercussions from anybody, and that includes the Board of Selectmen. If they're smart, they might vote against this and get this thing straightened out once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Excuse me, Fred, before you sit down, can I ask you a question real quick? And you can go back to your seat and you can answer from there if you like, but, so you seem to think that the solution for this project is to build 2 separate buildings, correct?
Yes,
So
yes.
you-
Well, a police station
A police
and
station?
renovate town hall, yes.
And renovate the town hall. Does it, is it not clear, are we not being clear that that's gonna cost more money?
My concern is not cost, it's doing the right thing for the town.
Thank
That's
you.
my concern.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that it is going to cost more money to do it that way.
That's not what he said.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Once again, as a selectman that's been around a while,
Don't forget to stand for the camera.
once again, as a selectman that has been around a long time, I've certainly witnessed and been involved in a lot of the issues before us tonight. Please, as we go forward with these questions, these are questions for Eric that has been at this a very long time. These are questions for an architect that has just been hired, that has actually really opened our eyes. Like I said before, we would not be in this position if the town had voted to hire the architect and the OPM in the beginning. If you had done that at this time, we would have been laying things out 2 years ago. So we are where we are now, and that's fine. Everyone in this room has their opinion. The voters will have their opinion. It will be displayed Tuesday, and we will go back to town meeting. The thing we should remember today, if you have questions, in the best way possible, bring them forward so we can answer them. With the selectmen's help, the finance committee's help, the selectmen's help, building committee's help, this is what we've landed on. We figure this is the best thing for the next 50 years, visioning forward. We feel we're bringing the best product forward that we can for you guys. It is your choice to vote it up or down. I don't know why everyone here is so mad at us for bringing something that you can vote up or down. Are you afraid that it might get voted up?
Any more questions, comments? Jim?
Jim Moran of Elm Street. A few comments to the point of marshals and naysayers. You know, you admittedly came before us and said that you failed twice in the past. And it's your failure that's, as you selfly admit, that's brought us to this point. I think most people would take offense to the fact that they think it's because of the voters we're here. The plan that the town came up with several years ago, in my mind, is not only a good plan, but it's a better plan than is being offered today. And I say this in 2 points. One being separation for the police, I think is a good thing. But secondly, the cost of this still has to fall on the least expensive way would be to build a standalone police station and renovate and add on to Town Hall. I've given Eric some numbers on that in the past month. I haven't had any response from that. But those numbers are pretty much based on all the unit costs the town's been using for the last couple of years. That being said, I keep coming back to the same thing, and I've had many years of experience in working with construction and estimates, so I'm not too far off the mark. And in a line, unless Eric can stand up and say I'm all wet, I would have to argue otherwise. It looks like he may. That being said, if we spent $6.5 million just for a new police station, which I stood up in front of town meeting a few weeks ago and said, and I know that can be done, and then we spent another $2.5 million to renovate and add on to Town Hall, that's a total of $9 million. The number for you today is $11.5 million. So there's simple economics there and physical spending that you have to say, you know, we're out. Now, I don't quite understand what this note on it says proposed options. Proposed option to what?
That's the proposed project.
Oh, this says proposed options. What is the proposed option? Versus an option to what's our other choices?
You're going to argue with the word option. Is that what your argument is? You don't understand the word option?
I understand options. What are our options?
We're going to add the word best proposed option. This is the best proposed option.
In Eric's opinion, this is the best. In my opinion, what I just presented was the best. And eventually the voters are going to make that determination. Not only have we, in the past 4 years, had a couple of failed scenarios. At the recent town meeting 2 weeks ago, it was voted down, and now next week you'll have another opportunity to make some votes. I'm for and very supportive of a police station and how it's best implemented. I'm of a certain opinion, and Eric and the town are of another opinion. Obviously, I believe everybody here is for the reason of getting a police station off the ground and moving ahead. I'll continue to support that effort, but I think we have a responsibility to spend money as physically responsible as we should. Eric?
Thanks, Jim. So Jim, I did just this week take your numbers that you presented And by breaking the project apart, what is not in your numbers is the separate design fees and the OPM and the testing. The designer cannot design a project now and let it sit for 2 years and then bring it out of the drawer and go through the public bid process. You're doubling up the meeting times. The testing people have limits that, it's a 4-hour minimum to come out. If they're doing one bigger project, they get more done in a day because more's going on. If you break the project apart, it's 2 separate entities. And also there's the time delay, there's the factor of escalation. So there is a fair amount, I think, that gets missed in terms of building 2 separate projects. It brings the total cost back up somewhere around 12 million again.
No, it doesn't.
Question, we'll pass the mic back and forth for Munis. Eric, what is your total to my proposal? What do you think my number should be?
12,756,350.
Obviously, I failed miserably in my attempt here to, I cannot attest to what Eric has because I haven't seen it. It's been with him for a month, and to bring it out now without fair evaluation, but believe me in what I put in fact, is I put in 100% of the architect's fees for the standalone police station, which obviously would never happen, and the same 100% of the OPM fees, which would never happen. So, I imagine we could spend a little time here. I think I'm done. I've made my presentation, and I'll stand down. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any more questions or comments? If you'd like, please come up.
My name is Charlie Forrestal. I live at 77 Pine Island Road in Newbury. I am a builder. I design, furnish, and erect engineered steel systems throughout the state. About 85% of our work is public work, federal work, state work, municipals. The architect context is familiar with the bid process. 50 to 60% of your work is renovation of existing town halls, per your website, per my understanding of what you do. The standalone police station and the addition and renovation to the town hall, the sprinkler system, the mechanical systems, all of that is not the situation that is costing that building to exceed what we have budgeted already, what we've approved. That's a red herring that keeps getting thrown out because nobody knows what the costs are. We haven't solicited those numbers. We looked at that thing on a design-build basis, take it apart and put it together the way we need it. We can force it to the numbers that we're talking about. That's in the design, that's in the process of the mechanical, the electrical, and all the rest of it. But right now, we're looking at, we don't have that option. We've already voted that option. We've already put that in play. And nothing's been done with it, other than to come back with what we had before. We had 3 different options before. They were confusing. It was voted down. The standalone police station was voted, a compromise of $6.5 million was approved. The renovation to the town hall was approved. Nothing's been done. We haven't seen any proposed options for the renovation of the town hall and the addition to the town hall. Another thing that we're looking at is we're looking at debt that we're going to take on for this project. We have other debt that's going to face us very shortly. This fire station needs work. We've got Triton over there. It's a time bomb. The thing's 45, 50 years old. It's falling down around the kids' ears. That thing's going to be a $20 million whack, and it's coming at us. Just go over there and take a look. So don't think that we can look at this and we can have a standalone debt obligation. It's going to continue to add on. You know, it's $275 a family now and a $500,000 valuation. We throw that our share of the other debt that's going to come to us, whether capital planning or anyone else, they don't seem to bring it up, but it's there, and it's our obligation to pay for it. And that's going to push us over $1,000 a year more on that $500,000 home.
You're right. The police fire, was 10 years ago identified as a project, and the fire department still has issues of not having appropriate spaces to meet requirements for their equipment and the way they function. And there will be other costs. And Marshall can speak to where the town was 10 years ago and where the town is today in terms of debt level. It comes and goes. I do hope that we're not at the point, or we're not at the path of a DPW building that has to be condemned by our own building inspector and we have to move everybody out because it's unoccupiable by state law. The other, we had a DPW truck that lost an axle in the middle of the road before we could figure out how to replace it. There were people that had to step up and figure out how to put an upgrade to town hall with their own means and efforts just to get it there. So we can wait for things to fail. It would be good if you provided your square footage numbers so that there's a basis to understand.
The square footage numbers are forwarded through Jim's budget and updated. And I think that the $9 million number still works. It gives you over $600 a square foot to produce this project. Architectural and soft cost fees can be negotiated as well. They're not a constant percentage. They're certainly not in a police station.
Yeah, but there are just averages out there for anybody to do the work. And you said you've done state work, that you know that it's a qualifications based.
Well, we're doing 4 projects today.
Right, so you
Okay,
don't get
the
out,
state.
you cannot go out and bid and ask 4 architects for 4 proposals and pick the cheapest proposal because that's what you want to do.
That isn't what I said, sir.
You said you could negotiate down, and so you do not negotiate.
Well, that's what a building committee does.
Yeah, and we did the selection process. And if you'd like to see contacts qualifications, I have them up here for anybody to see.
We agree with it. Jim and I agree with the numbers.
That's great, but I haven't seen your numbers.
They're your numbers. Take a look at it.
Yeah, and they're older numbers. You haven't accounted for escalation. You haven't accounted for 2 separate.
These numbers are old. You presented them this morning.
Not the numbers that Jim put on the spreadsheet for breaking the project apart.
No, the numbers that Jim has on the spreadsheet are more than this.
They're not for square footage for the town
Let's
hall.
not do it on a square footage. Let's do it on a project by design. You can divide everything by square footage, but let's go with the real dollars.
We're getting down to detail, and the detail of breaking the project
Detail
apart
is
is where
dollars.
the added expense is. We've already lump summed it, and that's the lump sum caused the issues of having those several
Eric,
options
you've
that
had
were
100 hours if you had a minute to properly explain each one of the iterations that you've created in the last 4 to 5 years. Certainly appreciate the time and effort and energy. But the dollars are the dollars. That's what we're talking about. Our needs and the dollars we have to pay for it. And our future needs. They're imminent.
understood.
They're not.
I guess if I can interrupt here for a second, we've done a lot of public safety projects, a lot of police stations, and a good number of town halls, renovations, new construction, all different types. I'm advising you with the numbers that I've provided on what the likelihood is of this project costing that amount. Could it be done for less? Possibly. But we don't have enough detail at this stage of design to know exactly what it's going to cost to bid. So what I'm giving you today, the numbers I'm giving you today, are the likelihood of it costing this amount of money, because the last thing the town wants to do is come back and ask for more money. In this particular case, the building is going to cost what we've said it's going to cost, the construction costs we've put forward for a combined police station, town hall, $450 a square foot, and the what's called soft costs, which are the fees you pay for management, design,
That's
all
on
the other
this
items.
option, sir. That's on this option.
But we've done the same thing for all the other options.
Defend those numbers you've done, and you've presented those
We've done it
numbers
for
and we
all the
reviewed
other
them,
options,
and we
including the
understand.
renovation-only option, which is the budget that Jim had provided to Eric, and we looked at as well. And, you know, you did use, I think Jim's numbers did use the same cost per square foot that we had identified for renovation to the town hall, as well as the new construction of the police station. But there were some glaring omissions that wouldn't allow the same project to be built. And I think that's where we start to diverge on our understanding of what this project should be. The scope that was identified, the scope of the project, was identified in the space needs study, working with the police department, working with the town hall, as to what each department needed, ultimately produced a building that was too expensive and separated. And so by combining those two and being
Sir,
able
I
to...
understand your assignment, I understand your dialogue that you've had with the building committee and all of that. What I'm talking about is what we, the citizens of the town, have approved for the police department to be a standalone. We bought the property adjacent to this for that to happen, and to provide the money necessary to provide an addition and the renovation of the town hall, to produce the square footage necessary for the administration of this town. That has been stated 1,000 times. What you've been assigned to do, you've done. What we voted for and what we want to see move forward is what we voted for, what we approved, what we know will work.
Thank you very much for that, because I think that was very clear into what your point was, and it was a point well taken. I do want to address the $50 million number that was just thrown out for capital planning for Triton. That is not...
20 million.
20 million, sorry. Okay, 20 million for Triton is not on, that's not true. It's misinformation. Please don't think that the school district is looking for $20 million. The town of Newbury's elementary school is paid off. The capital planning committee, I'm going to ask Marshall to come up and speak to that because he's the chairman of that, has listed all of the town's capital needs, which is something that we would come to town meeting and ask to override the tax base again, is for a cost, significant cost to pay for the capital needs of the town. Triton is shared 3 ways. So even though the building sits in Byfield, any adjusted cost to that building would be split 3 ways. And not evenly 3 ways. It's based on enrollment, but we don't go there. As far as...
Is it additional debt?
It will be, but it's not, well, it might be. That's not sure yet. Depends. That's so far in the future that it is so far in the future. Has the superintendent of schools told you that he's looking at that issue?
Well, any of us that have walked through the school in the last 5 years and seen the deterioration and the necessity for maintenance and other work that hasn't been done can clearly tell you that that is a ticking time bomb.
Well, that has been a conversation that I have had with the superintendent of schools because I know that there's been issues with windows in there and water, and that is different than a complete new construction building.
Not talking about a new construction, we're talking about a large-scale repair to a building system that's 40 plus years old, that has not had the proper maintenance for a period of time, and it's coming.
That's not been identified today, yet. Actually, Marshall, can you speak to about what's come off the capital planning list? Hang on.
Okay, thank you very much. We have been reducing the debt on our capital expenditures over the years. And the plan from the Finance Committee, and especially from Capital Planning, but mostly from Finance Committee, was that as that debt came down and new debt came on, we would have a more even layering of the capital expenditures for the town, because there's always going to be capital expenditures for the town. It's just going to happen. We are actually coming to a point where we will have everything paid off in 2002. If we go back 10 years, or a little less than 10 years, 2020, I'm sorry. Back 10 years, we would have had debt expenses in real dollars more than twice of what we would have with the existing project going on to the rolls. So we're actually at a lower point in debt financing than we would have been. And the town has chosen to use debt financing rather than saving up for capital expenditures because of the fact that we've gone through some tight times. We've had to really scrape to get through our operations and to do emergency repairs on some of the things that we've had to do. And so we do not have the luxury of saving up for these capital expenses in a way that would save us money and save the town money. Thank you.
So when we look at the capital buildings that the town has, we have Newbury Elementary School that has, Marshall, I'm going to ask you to actually still speak. So Newbury Elementary School is paid for. Does that come off our doles? And how about the roof? Is that, we budgeted for that, correct? Okay, so that's Newbury Elementary. There's the Newbury Town Library. The Newbury Town Library, that's come off the tax doles as well, correct? Or is it a couple more years left? A couple years left for that. Is there any major improvements coming down the road for that? I don't believe so.
Toilets on Plum Island.
Excuse me?
Toilets on Plum Island.
Toilets on Plum Island, correct. So there's the library and there's a Newbury Elementary School. Triton is, they have a capital plan the same way the town of Newbury does. I have had a conversation with the superintendent. He has not told me of any major needs at Triton coming. I asked him to look 10 years out, and he didn't identify any as of 10 years from now. We have this building here. This building here, we just appropriated some money at town meeting to shore up this building and be able to make it last a little bit longer, because I know that the wall is sinking down here, and I also know that the fire trucks can't fit, and we specifically buy fire trucks so that they will, no, Ed's shaking your head, no, what do you mean no? They do fit. They do. We specifically buy trucks, we make sure that they will fit. We will not buy something that will not fit in there. Wait, it's good, but you have to understand that the building is so old that current equipment won't fit. A standard.
You're making my case. We do have additional capital expenditures.
In here.
We're going to have to come and nest on our shoulders.
Right. So,
thank you.
So that's the only. So those are the only big things. Currently, the only major issue we have is the police and the town hall, and those are the needs. This is it. There might be some smaller stuff coming, but nothing major.
More questions and comments? Wait, we got Marty. Sorry. Thanks, Ben.
Bernard Field, 64 Main Street, Byfield. I would like your picture a lot better if you turned the angle a little so we could see what the butcher shop and all of that looked like compared to this building. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us in this room that will never see that tree get that big. And
big trees are expensive, yes.
Yeah. The other comment I have is it's been 2.5 years. According to young Mr. Justinson, it costs $500,000 every 6 months. So that's $2.5 million that would have gone a long ways on the town hall if this project was acted on when we voted it in.
Jim was next.
We did start the process of acting on this. We had an ambitious...
No, you didn't. You didn't start.
If I may, please. We started a selection committee. The selection committee got an OPM. The OPM selection committee then hired the architect. Then we started the design. It's not snap your fingers. We didn't have a building in place at the time. So, when the design came back with a $4.7 million renovation to Town Hall, that's when we started looking at this combined facility. Because we did not think it was worth the investment of $4.7 million into the old Grange Hall.
Do we have those numbers? We haven't seen those numbers. $4.7 million that caused you to redirect to this design. As Jim, have we seen those numbers, Jim?
No, absolutely not.
Can we please have those numbers, 4.7? For the renovation of the town hall, $4.7 million.
Well, just show the program, I guess. There's the number for the separate project.
Now the breakdown, 4.7. Abracadabra. Where's the numbers?
It's right there.
That's 4.7. What's the breakdown? Come on.
Come on, what?
Come on and come up with the numbers. Where the hell does the money go?
It's $350 a square foot. The same lump sum numbers you were throwing out a minute ago. So we're even paying.
Thank you.
How many
Yeah.
square feet?
That's for the existing town hall?
12,665.
Let's pick it up from here.
We're here at a point, I see, we're comparing apples to oranges.
Here.
The town's project is one, what I'm talking about is a separate one. So I think we have to understand they're not equal comparisons, because the scope of work is different in each case. The scope of the town's work is to tear the town hall down, destroy it, and build a new 18,600 square foot building. On the other side of the coin, is what I've been discussing, is to build a standalone police station, renovate and add on to town hall, and also at somewhat of a reduced square footage. So not only the physical plan's different on an apples to oranges comparison, but you have to introduce the concept of what are the wants versus what are the needs. And those fit into the same equation. And this is where we are today. So when we talk about dollars per square foot and what we're getting out of it, I believe we can do this at less cost. Again, somewhat reduction in square footage, still implement a plan that provides plenty of space for the town and the police station.
That's great, but Jim has no program numbers, he has no list of rooms, he has no grossing factor added on to that. He's just telling you that it could be done cheaper. And that is the issue at hand with the 6.5 to the current in terms of the space needs that we're proposing for offices and for storage, and you know, that's where we're at. And we're trying to solve the needs, Jim. We're not just trying to pick a number and cram everything we can into the number and then say, whoops, we didn't quite get to those spaces because we couldn't afford them.
Both the estimate I've put together and what the town has put together, the conceptual estimates, and I'm sure Jeff would be the first one to acknowledge that. He's nodding his head. So I'm not trying to be an architect or a designer, but on dollars per square foot, and as you can see on the top two lines there's $11 million out of the 14, a construction cost. That's what's driving the dollars. My unit, I'm taking the unit cost the town has been using, 450 a square foot, and I'm applying it to a certain area. Again, this becomes an apples to oranges comparison, and we're going to be here a long time to try to get closure, and it'll never happen.
I'm going to agree with everything you said, Jim. Comes from a different perspective, but it's the same thing. It's what I said to an answer to a question a while ago. Jim's plan has a different scope of work than what the town has worked on with both departments. They've identified needs for the police department, identified needs for the town hall, and have put together what we believe, in our best professional opinion, is necessary for both departments. Jim has a different scope of work, which is less than that. That's why, using the same dollars per square foot, he can come up with a cheaper project. So the real argument here, is that the way you want to go, or is it paying attention to the good work that's already been done to figure out exactly what the needs are? Because I have definitely worked with towns before who have chosen to spend less money, and that's absolutely their right, and have been back with problems. Buildings don't work well, and buildings, day one, have run out of space. I don't want to see you guys go down that path. So whatever you'd like to do, if that's the way you're going to end up going, I've tried to advise the town as best I can for the needs that we see in both departments. I think the police department and town hall staff have done a great job trying to identify really what the true need is, and not reaching for anything that is a want or a desire that they don't need reasonably. So going forward, we have to also remember that these buildings try to anticipate the needs over 30, 40, 50 years, which is very hard to do over that time frame, but that's what we're attempting to do here. So I totally agree with Jim. These are different projects. Jim has a different scope than what has been identified, and that's really what I think the issue is.
sir.
Eric, how many square feet are we renting now for town hall facility?
We know,
7,100 square feet.
75? 7,500 including storage. Are there any more questions? Oh, Bernie.
Yeah. First of all, I screwed up when I come up at first. I meant to tell you, you have the tenacity of a bulldog, and I really do thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
And the other question I had was,
Bernie, thank you for that. I do appreciate that. If I seem a little worn down, a little angry, I don't mean to be. It's just been at this a long time.
you got a right to be.
So, sorry about that. Go ahead, Bernie.
The building of a police station, the structure of it has to be different than any other building, is that right?
Yes, there's a building code about
It has to be bulletproof.
essential
so
facilities
general
based on the occupancy, and so there are certain requirements in terms of the structure that are above and beyond just any other basic building, yes.
So will that drive the cost of if you put the town hall on top of it, you're gonna have to make that whole building bulletproof, so to speak? Would add more money on the cost of the building.
Yes, and building it new would actually probably be cheaper than trying to renovate to bring an older building to those standards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming. If we're not over yet, I just wanted to say thank you. And if there are more questions, or if you feel shy, please come up and make your point heard. I think the selectmen would like to have a word in closing, if that's the case. Thank you.
I think one of the things that has been missed in this project is the fact that renovation to town hall is an extremely expensive proposition in bringing forward, making it ADA compliant, fixing the basement, bringing in sprinklers. The cost of this is excessive for what we get. And so the standalone plan is not as good a plan as was initially envisioned.
So the Board of Selectmen was elected to, and I take this job very seriously, to solve the needs of the town in the best way, the financial and ethically way that we possibly can. This project fills two needs for the price of one. Here you have 6.2 million and 4.7 million if we did it separately. If this project fails at the polls, I believe it will come back, or at least I'm going to support it coming back, because it will probably cost more, because time will cost more, but nobody's going to give us a police station and nobody's going to give us a town hall. Senator Tarr has put some money into the bond bill that's going to eat this project down. Governor's Academy has offered to give us some money towards this capital project because they are a big user of the police services. We've got money squirreled away in free cash that could probably take some of the soft costs down. So $12 million is the most possible it could possibly cost us. I strongly believe in my heart of hearts that it will not cost that much. So I urge you all, please come out and vote yes on question 4. Thank you.
J.R. Colby, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to keep this short today. This is a culmination of many, many years' work by many, many dedicated people. If we could do this for half the price, I would. 6.5 was a compromise number. At town meeting, all of us collectively as a community refused to approve $880,000 for design money, which would have brought us to factual numbers sooner. As a community at town meeting, we chose not to do that. Many, many years ago, before my administration, at town meeting, as a community, we chose to sell Woodbridge. These are all things we have to live with. Other communities we're watching go through this process approve the design money at town meeting, so they could go into it head on, and they could get numbers from people like Mr. Shaw early on, so they knew what to prepare for, what to communicate to the people. This is a byproduct of decisions we all made together, and I beg you all, I firmly believe that the combined facility is going to save us money in the long term. And you only need to look to Raleigh. We were talking about the tree on the conceptual picture earlier, which I thought was an interesting comparison. You know, some of us might not be here when that tree grows to that size, but I'll tell you what, if we split the project, we're going to be revisiting these things before the tree grows to that size. So I beg you all, vote for the affirmative on this project. In the long term, it is the best way for us to go. Any other way, we're going to save 50 cents and cost ourselves $5 in the long run. Have a good day, and thank you all for coming. We had a good turnout.
Anybody else in the audience? Thank you very much for coming.